In this episode of the Red and Gold Report, as we look back at the first week of free agency, we wonder, are the Chiefs getting passed up in the AFC West? Here's the thing, the AFC West is on fire right now. The Chargers just made huge moves, bringing Khalil Mack from Chicago in a trade, signing the top free agent corner in J.C. Jackson, signing two other potentially starting defensive linemen. The Raiders just traded for the league's very best wide receiver in Devontae Adams, while also signing one of the top free agent defensive ends in Chandler Jones and re-signing their own top pass rusher in Max Crosby. And the Broncos just traded for quarterback Russell Wilson. They just shelled out huge money for two young quality defensive linemen. I mean, all three of the other teams in the AFC West made huge, enormous, massive moves forward this week. It's kind of really unbelievable. It's all happening right here in the same division. It is easily the best division in football right now. But it begs the question, what did the Chiefs do this week? Did they get better? Did they get worse? Did they stay the same? Because guess what? If the Chiefs don't strengthen this roster this offseason, they could get passed by this crazy division that we're in. So let's start with the two big free agent signings the Chiefs had made so far. Justin Reed, the safety from Houston, and Juju SmithSchuster, the wide receiver from Pittsburgh. And here's the thing. Outside of the contract numbers and the positions, they're kind of the same signing. Both are very young players. Actually, both are 25 years old. Both have huge potential, are excellent athletes. Both played well in their first two seasons of the league and then struggled in the next 2 or 3 years. They're signings that are based more on potential than performance last year. So on Friday, the Chiefs signed former Pittsburgh wide receiver Juju SmithSchuster. Now, this isn't a surprise, as the Chiefs publicly flirted with him last offseason when he was a free agent, and ultimately last year while the Chiefs missed out and he returned to Pittsburgh on a 1-year, $8 million contract. But you know what? The season didn't go as planned for him. His career is kind of a weird one so far. In his first 2 years in the league, he was electric. In 2017, he had 917 yards receiving. Excellent for a rookie. And in 2018, he had 1,426 yards. He was a true playmaker. If you watched him, he was particularly a great playmaker using his strength from the slot on quick throws. He also averaged a PFF grade of 79.2 over his first 2 seasons, which is very good for your first 2 seasons in the league. He was a true number 1 wide receiver. But then injuries started piling up, and instead of looking strong, he began to look very slow. In the 3 seasons between 2019 and 2021, he only averaged a measly 504 yards of receiving and an average PFF grade of 63.5. So instead of looking like a true number 1 wide receiver, he looked like a number 4 wide receiver to me. So the huge question is, which Juju SmithSchuster are the Chiefs going to get? Like, is he going to look like his first 2 years, a fun, strong playmaker? Or is he going to look like his last 3 years, a slow, plodding, 4th wide receiver? In the end, the Chiefs have to be banking on the potential there, right? The belief he can return to his 2018 form, because his last 3 seasons have just been kind of bad, honestly. So in Chiefs Kingdom, we're all going to be crossing our fingers that because he's still just 25, he can get back to his dynamic ways. And I hope he can. I mean, what better opportunity would he have? He gets to play with Patrick Mahomes now. Now, luckily, it's reported that the Chiefs signed Juju to a very team-friendly contract. At first, it was actually reported that it was a 1-year deal, a simple deal for over $10 million, which that would have been straight up stupid because he hasn't been good for a little while. But in a very wise move, Brett Veach and friends appear to have signed Juju to actually a 1-year deal with a base value around $3 million that could rise to a max value of over $10 million. And that's great, because if we get the slow version of Juju from the last 3 seasons, we only lose $3 million. But if we get the dynamic version from his first 2 years, what team wouldn't be thrilled to pay like $10.75 million for an awesome wide receiver? So while, yeah, there's no guarantee he's going to be a quality second receiver, the contract presents great quality for the Chiefs. But the other big signing earlier in the week feels kind of similar. Only problem is, unlike with Juju, the contract is a pretty bad one. The Chiefs signed former Texans defensive safety Justin Reed to a 3-year, $31.5 million deal in free agency. Now, I'm not understanding why this is such a big contract here. I don't get this one. Because again, just like with Juju, while Justin played well in his first 2 years in the league, receiving PFF grades of 75 and 77, that's great for a starting rookie and then second year safety. Well, the last 2 years were a bit of a disaster with grades of only 60.7, and then last year, 50.8. In fact, last year was so rough that Reed graded out as the 87th out of 92 safeties in the NFL. And he has had a grand total of 2 interceptions. Two over the last 2 seasons. Yeah, averaging 1 a season the last 2 years. Also, he got benched for a bit last year when he got in a disagreement with his coaches. I don't like having too many players like that around. So, just like with Juju, the Chiefs have to be hoping the same thing here with Justin Reed, that he could return to the quality play of his early career. Because again, exactly like Juju, Justin is only 25 years old, and he really is a great athlete. The problem is that unlike with Juju, the Chiefs are paying Reed big bucks. Why do that? He hasn't played well in a while. So those are the two big signings so far, and both are eerily similar. Big bets on 25-year-old players who showed talent early in their careers, but have really struggled the last few seasons. However, I do have to say, I got to give it to the team, that wide receiver and safety were absolute key positions we had to fill in free agency so that the team can really focus on the defensive line early on in the NFL draft. So I am happy about which positions that they addressed. Yet, those are not the only moves this week for the Chiefs. But before we go into more, remember to hit that subscribe button, notification bell on YouTube, get all the best weekly Chiefs news brought to you right here on the interweb. So let's talk players who have signed this week to return to our Chiefs. In a quiet signing that I really like, the Chiefs are bringing back starting fullback Michael Burton on a 1-year, $1.2 million contract. Burton was among the best fullbacks, I think the best fullback in the league last year, and this is the right move absolutely for our Chiefs. It just makes a ton of sense. The team is also bringing back backup quarterback Chad Henne on a 1-year, $2 million deal, which also makes a ton of sense because, hey, why spend a bunch of money on a backup quarterback? Like, if Mahomes gets hurt, it kind of doesn't matter, right? The Chiefs are also bringing back running back Derek Gore, who my statistical analysis tells me that he was actually the best running back for the Chiefs last season. So I'm very happy about that one. And they're bringing back highly talented tight end Jody Fortson, who was unfortunately hurt early last season, but showed a lot of promise before that. So there are some definite good moves bringing back those players there. But then the team had to go and make two absolute boneheaded moves, bringing back two guys who failed last year. The first is Andrew Wiley. He's returning on a 1-year, $2.5 million deal, even though he was the big sore spot at right tackle last year along the offensive line. But the other player, if you watch this channel, you know that this player just boils my blood. Instead of cutting defensive end Frank Clark, cutting his felonies away, cutting his bloated contract, the Chiefs have chosen actually to renegotiate with the 89th rated edge defender in the league with a 2-year, $29 million deal worth up to $36 million. Yes, this will save the team something like $12 to $15 million in this next year. But it's also going to ensure the Chiefs return one of the worst starting defenders in the entire NFL. Now, I am sorry. I love my Chiefs, but there is simply no excuse and no reason to bring back a bad player with a bad off-field track record. Lots of problems, just no matter what the contract is. So with the two big new free agents and all those players returning to the team, a couple players returning to the team that shouldn't be returning to the team, with all that in mind, who have the Chiefs just plain lost during this first week of free agency? Well, they've actually lost a couple of important players. Former Chiefs starting corner Charvarius Ward has signed with the 49ers on a 3-year, $42 million deal. Now, I get it. I get why the Chiefs would not think that they should be paying that much money to him. I understand that. I'm not against that. But it still stings to lose a starting corner, right? Backup interior offensive lineman Austin Blythe has signed with the Seahawks. He actually got more money with them than I was expecting, but that's not a big deal for the Chiefs. He only played 12 snaps last year anyway. The Chiefs also are now set to lose Tyrann Mathieu. So Tyrann hasn't signed anywhere yet. With the team spending big money on Reed, there's no way he's coming back. There's no way you're going to pay like two safeties both over $10 million a year. That just doesn't make any sense. And actually, it's rumored, and this is interesting, the Chiefs didn't even offer Tyrann any contract at all, which proves what I always try to say. Do not listen to the press conferences. NFL press conferences are a waste of time. The team was just throwing all this smokescreen over the last few months when they were talking Tyron up. So don't listen to those. The team also lost wide receiver Byron Pringle. With the former Chiefs executive Ryan Poles steering the ship in Chicago, Pringle left for a 1-year, $6 million deal there. Even though the team just added Juju, I still think this hurts the Chiefs as Byron was often the second best wide receiver for us last year. So with the signings and the returns and the bad returns and the departures all in mind, we got to ask, have the Chiefs gotten better or worse during this first week of free agency? Well, I think that we've gotten slightly worse. I don't want to do all the whole clickbait thing and say it's a disaster. It's not a disaster. You don't lose games in the first week of free agency, right? But you know what? Justin Reed, he's a downgrade at safety from Tyron. Juju, well, he's kind of a question mark at this point in his career, replacing Byron Pringle at receiver. And bringing back Frank Clark and losing Charvarius Ward, that really hurts. But here's the problem. The rest of this division just took huge steps forward. And we took a little step back. Not a huge step, but a little step back. So where does that leave us? Well, rationally and on paper, it leaves us with a thin grip on the division. It leaves us a little worried. Hey, you know what? We still got Patrick Mahomes, right? So I still think we're bringing the trophy home. With the free agency news done, let's move on to other Chiefs news. Last week, Patrick Mahomes got married to his longtime girlfriend. I got to say, I love Patrick. I'm a huge fan of Patrick, but his wife and brother kind of drive me nuts, so I don't even want to talk about this stuff. I just hope that the two of them, if they could give Patrick any present for his wedding day, any wedding present, I wish that they were just going to delete all their social media, but I don't think they did. In other Chiefs news, the Chiefs had been awarded 2 third-round compensatory picks in the upcoming draft for losing some free agents last year, which when I look at who we lost, I kind of think the NFL, they did us a little bit of a favor, so I'm very happy about that. And in other news, the Chiefs are still in contract extension negotiations with Tyreek Hill. And you know what? I'm sure that it got a whole lot more complicated after the Raiders just traded for the Packers wide receiver Devontae Adams. Then the Raiders backed up the Brinks truck, handed Adams $141 million. Yeah, $141 million. So good luck getting Hill to sign a deal that's not going to just break the bank for the Chiefs. But what do you think? What do you think about the Reed and Juju signings? Let me know in the comments below. And what do you think about all these moves other teams are making in our division? Are you worried? Are you not? Let me know in the comments below. Make sure to hit the subscribe button, notification bell on YouTube. Thanks for watching, and go Chiefs!